Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hey there, Nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Chiefskate, and we are back with another episode of the Golden Age. This is a series of Warhammer Fantasy Battle Reports for Games Workshop's Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition, and this is Battle Report number 146. It is a 3,000 point battle that is fought between Dogs of War as well as Wood Elves. My friend Smells Like Febreze is bringing the Wyld Hunt, which is her 3,000 point Wood Elf army, and I will, of course, be playing the Miragliano Mercenaries, my 3,000 point Dogs of War army. So let's go ahead and talk about what's going on. In case if you are tuning in for the very first time, my studio has actually created a 3,000 point Dogs of War army that we recently completed, and every single time that we actually complete a new army in the studio, what we do, we actually take this army and take it through its places by facing all the different armies that we have in the studio's collection. We have 16 armies in total, including the Dogs of War army, so they'll be doing 15 different battle reports, making their way through the studio's collection. So up to this point, they've fought Dark Elves, Empire, they also fought High Elves, and they also fought Khorne Legion of Chaos, and now they're going up against Wood Elves in this one. So I do have my work cut out for me because this Wood Elf army is actually extremely aggressive. It's primarily a Forest Spirits-based army, so I do have my work cut out for me that way. So with that being said, we're going to play some background music real quick. As the music is playing, we will show you photos of both armies as well as our army lists. If you want to see exactly what we're bringing for this battle report, you can pause and take a look at your own leisure, or you can check down the description box below for the full army list as well. So that being said, let's get this battle report on a roll.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one. Not even you will remember if we were good men or bad. Why we fought, or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Balor pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then the hell with you.
Assemble the army!
Battle Line is the scenario that we'll be playing for this battle report, and Battle Line is also the most common game that we play with Warhammer Fantasy Battle, especially on this channel. Basically consists of standard deployment as well as standard victory conditions. It's the most ordinary game of Warhammer there is, and it's also our very favorite way to play as well. So now that we're done talking about these scenario rules, let's go ahead and talk about deployments. So first of all, let's go ahead and talk about Smells Like Febreze's army, the Wyld Hunt, and starting on our far left-hand flank, we have the Sisters of Twilight. The special characters, Naetra and Arahan, they're both armed with Talon of Dawn as well as Talon of Dusk. Both are packing light armor as well as Asrai spears, and they're riding Ceithin-Har, the Forest Dragon. So that makes up my friend Smells Like Febreze's far left-hand flank. In the center of her deployment area is where she has her general as well as her first core unit. On the left hand side is Durthu, the special character. He is also the general of this army as well. He's also got a level 1 wizard with the lore of beasts for his spells. He also has a Lamentations of Despair for his shooting attack, as well as the spell Amber Spear for this one. And right next to him on the right hand side, that unit is called the Troop of Dusk. It consists of 49 Dryads led by a branch Nymph, and it's also led by the special character Drycha. She's a special character with a level 2 lore, a wizard with the lore of shadows, and she has the Enfeebling Foe and the Withering. So continuing with the right hand side of her center line, in the back there, that is Coeddil the Willow Lord. He is a Treeman Ancient with a level 4 wizard lore of life. He's got the spells Flesh to Stone, Regrowth, Throne of Vines, as well as Daughters from Below. And right next to him is the Troop of Twilight, which is a unit of 14 Glaive Guard with Standard Bearer as well as Musician. They're packing hand weapons, Asrai longbows, as well as Arcane Bodkins and the Band of Eternal Flame. So these guys have -4 AP, and they also have flaming attacks as well, so a very devastating unit. Now right next to here on the right hand side, I call this the Court of Tides in the game, But this unit is a unit of 25 Dryads led by a branch nymph, but actually this unit is actually not supposed to be on the battlefield. My friend Smells Like Febreze made a mistake. She got her army list mixed up with one that she used to play earlier, where she had 2 units of Dryads, so this is actually a superfluous unit that's not supposed to be here, and you know, so we didn't catch it until after we actually played the game, and then I actually started making this battle report and I noticed it. So if you're wondering why there's an extra unit of Dryads on here, that's perfectly fine. So that's one of the problems we have with this game. And off to the side of the table, we have her units for Rouse to Wrath. Just because Drycha can deploy D3 Force Spirit units that can pop up later on in any force on the battlefield. So she has 2 units that she's doing for this one. She's got the unit called the Troop of Dawn, which is a unit of 9 Treekin. So you can see the right there on the left-hand side. And right next to him is Sternbark the Harrower, which is a Treeman who's also got Strangle Roots. So these 2 guys will not be starting the game because they're off to the side and they'll pop up later for the Rouse to Wrath ability. And that makes up my friend Smells Like Febreze's deployment for this one. So let's go into my deployment, the Miragliano Mercenaries. On the far left-hand side, that unit is called the Nightmare Legion. It is a regiment renowned led by the character Ennio Mordini. He's got heavy armor as well as a shield, and he's packing the legendary magic weapon Scab's Wrath. Also, that unit is the unit champion Renzo Avanti. He's got additional hand weapons as well as heavy armor, and we have 28 Doom Legionaries with standard bearing musician. They're packing halberds, heavy armor as well as shields. Behind them on that forest, that is Bronzino's Galloper Guns. It is another regiment renowned. It is led by Bronzino, the special character who is a master gunner. He's got hand weapon, pistol, and heavy armor. He's riding a warhorse, and he has 2 gun batteries of 3 crew apiece with a miniature horse-drawn cannon as well as pack horses. And then right in the front, of course, are the Vrezzo Gunners. As you know, 20 handgunners with standard bearing musician. They have handguns, hand weapons, light armor, as well as devices. So, making up the center of my army on the left-hand side, that unit is called Perazzo's Lost Legion. It is a regiment renowned led by the special character Perazzo. He has hand weapons, crossbow, as well as heavy armor, and there's also a standard bearer and a musician in this unit. It also consists of 20 crossbowmen as well as 23 pikemen, and the unit is, of course, equipped with light armor, hand weapons, pikes, and crossbows. And in that unit, of course, are my characters. First of all is my General Condottieri Patricio Il Turcio. He is my Merchant Prince, who's also the general for my army as well. He's got a brace of pistols as well as a shield, and he's mounted on a routed warhorse. He's also got Ogre Blade, Armor of Destiny, and Guido's Lucky Coin, and he's got the forward march stratagem, so that way all infantry units vanguard at 4 to 6 inches. Next to him is Maximilian Max Schreiber, my Hireling Wizard Lord. He's got a level 4 Lore of Metal. He's got the Searing Doom, Enchanted Blades Eye-Band, Glittering Robe, Guinness Golden Hounds, as well as the Final Transmutation. And I also have 2 other special characters, Gotrek Gurnison with Gotrek's Rune Axe, and Felix Jaeger with the Wormslayer's Sword. Right next on the right hand side, that unit is called the Golden Company. It is a unit of 26 Paymaster's Bodyguard with full command. They have halberds as well as heavy armor, and they also have the Midas's Bodyguards upgrade, meaning that the unit is also stubborn. And leading that unit is the special character Midas the Mean. He was the Paymaster, who's got a hand weapon as well as full plate armor. He's got a treasure map as well as the Crest of Midas, giving his unit magical attacks, as well as Shikadouche, who's also got a hand weapon. He's got also kind of pay chest as well, mounted on a pay cart, and it's pulled by a mule. And then finally, right in front of them is the Lucchini Rifles, a unit of 20 handgunners with standard bearing musician. They have handguns, hand weapons, light armor, as well as devices. And I forgot to mention this in the photo, but in the tower is La Agonia, my mercenary great cannon with 3 crew armed with hand weapons. And on my right hand flank, on the far of the back, that is the unit called La Estasi. It is a Revolt with 3 crew as well as hand weapons. And right in the front, of course, are my Thugs of Tabaro, which are my 5 Stratiotes armed with light crossbows and mounted on war horses. And that pretty much makes up my deployment for this one. So with deployment over with, we go directly to battle plans. Alright, so now that we're done with deployments and scenario rules, let's go ahead and talk about what my battle plan is on this one. So I do have my work cut out for me, and the reason why that is the case is because my Dogs of Army is primarily a defensive army. It's not really meant for maneuvering, it's not really meant for going anywhere. It's actually meant just to kind of stick around and just stay where they're primarily located at and shoot my opponents to death, kind of like a Dwarf Gunline list for the most part. But the reason why this could be a problem is because I can pretty much take on my enemies if they're coming at me from the front. But if they come at me from the flanks, though, I really don't have much of anything to stop them with. Which is going to be a huge problem for me because if you look right over here on my right flank, I have 2 forests I got to worry about as well. My friend Smells Like Febreze does have the special character Drycha in her army, so she can use Rouse to Wrath ability. So D3 units could come up on the table. She's got a huge unit of 9 forestkin as well, treekin, as well as a tree man named Sternbark that I have to worry about because it could just pop right here in my flank and just cause all kinds of pain. Now, the interesting thing about this army, the Wyld Hunt, is that the army is actually kind of interesting. It's kind of like a combination of both an offensive list, a really aggressive offensive list, as well as a defensive list. It's defensive in the sense that you do have archers and you do have magic users that have to use the force to get their buffs for their spells, but it's also highly aggressive because there's a lot of dryads in this army, which is a lot of close combat attacks coming my way. At the same time, there's also Durthu, the special character, as well as the Sisters of Twilight in this list as well. So this unit is also very aggressive. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to whittle down my friend Smells Like Febrez's forces before they actually close a combat with me. At the same time, I do have to worry about their shooting attacks because these guys do have arcane bodkin, so there's no armor against it, plus flaming attacks, so I do have my work cut out for me that way. So that's what I got to look out for. What I'm really worried about, though, is forces popping up over here in the flank, which I'm really scared about. Hopefully, if anything pops up, I could then send in the Mean and the Golden Company in order to deal with it as well. Hopefully, I could also bog down her monster with my Mordini's Nightmare Legion, so that way I can stop those guys as well. So we'll see exactly what ends up happening on this one. And the reason why is because my last battle report, I got absolutely destroyed by Dark Elves, and so that one was extremely demotivating. I was like, no, but that's okay. So with that being said, we'll go directly to the top of turn number 1. Both Smells Like Febreze and I roll off for initiative to see which of us will be going first, and we'll come back after turn number 1. Alright, so we're back at the top of turn number 1, and my friend Smells Like Febreze gets to go first on this one. She gets the initiative, and as you can see, her army just moves up as quickly as it possibly can, with no hesitation whatsoever. She does play a very aggressive Wood Elves list, and so you can see her most of her energy forces move up. So let's go ahead and talk about what has ended up happening. So first of all, the first thing that she does is she takes the Sisters of Twilight, have them march fly directly over from their deployment area, directly right behind this pillar over here for this ruins. That way she's protected from the front from being shot at by Berzino's Galloper guns away from that. At the same time, she also moves up Durthu as well, marching him forward right behind the Sisters of Twilight. He also moves up over here the Troop of Dawn, the Troop of Seasons, the Court of Seasons. As you can see, this huge unit of Dryads basically just kind of move up real quick, followed by Coeddil, the Willow Lord. Meanwhile, these guys at Troop of Twilight, they kind of stand their ground because they're archers. They really don't need to move. And at the same time, she also moves up the Court of Tides as well, in order to move them as quick as they can directly towards my Lucchini rifles. Now, for the rest of her turn, of course, she uses the Rouse of Wrath to War ability. So because of that, a couple of her guys do pop up. First of all, we do have the Troop of Dawn. Those guys pop up in this forest right over here, looking at directly the flank of my Lucchini rifles, which is really bad. And it's also right there in front of my Leastasi, Leastasi, which is my Revolt. At the same time, Sternbark the Hero also pops up in that back force over there as well. So I have some really decisions to make. Because yes, my Great Cannon can fire at Durthu as well as the Sisters of Twilight. But at the same time, though, I do have some threats coming right over here in my right-hand flank. So I might have to fire my cannon at Sternbark to keep him away. At the same time, do exactly the same thing with my Revolt to deal with these Treekin, which pretty much leaves up her infantry forces to be pretty much saved. So she's willing to sacrifice those guys to cause some damage to me. So I do have I do have things to worry about. Like I said before, my army is kind of vulnerable on the flanks, and that's exactly what Smells Like Febreze is going to do to me by assaulting forward with her troops. So now that we're done with the move phase, we go directly to the magic phase. We'll come back right after the magic phase. Alright, so now we're back from the magic phase from our friend Smells Like Febreze, and she had a pretty dominant magic phase. And the reason why is because she was able to score 12 power dice, only had 6. I don't have any Dispel Scrolls either. So it ended up being a huge problem for me. So first of all, what ended up happening, of course, is that she did decide to cast off the Withering, the Withering on this one, for Drycha. Drycha cast the Withering directly onto my Vrenzo Gunner, so because of that, they are now 2 toughness less, only toughness 1, which makes them extremely vulnerable. At the same time, she did try to cast Enfeebling Foe directly onto my Nightmare Legion, but I was able to stop that spell from getting through, so that part was kind of nice. I did try to stop the Withering as well, but unfortunately I just didn't have enough the die roll to stop that spell from going off, so that part was pretty brutal. At the same time, she also decided to cast Throne of Vines directly onto Coeddil the Willow Lord, so now he has buffs. And of course, she went for the big one, casting Flush the Stone off directly onto these guys over here, the Court of Seasons. So because of those guys are now toughness 8 now, because they got +4 to their toughness into the next magic round. So that part was absolutely insane. So with the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. And we'll be right back after that. Alright, so that takes us right back to the shooting phase. As you can see, my friend Smells Like Febreze had a very successful shooting phase. So first of all, what ended up happening is that over here, if you notice, my Vrenzo Gunners are completely gone. And that's because she opened fire with the Troop of Twilight, which is her archers. Her archers killed like 14, I think. No, not 14, I'm sorry. She had 14 archers in this unit. She killed like 10 of my guys. It was absolutely brutal what ended up happening over there as well. So those guys got shot to pieces, managed to kill a bunch of my dudes. But the real thing that really killed the most, what really hurt the most, however, was Naetra and Arahan. One of the sisters has 2d6 strength 1 hits that she can fire with her shot, and so it's because of that she did so. Managed to get 11 shots off, and as well as just managed to wipe out that unit completely off the table with a combination of poison attacks. Plus she only had a roll of 4 up to wound because my guys were toughness 1 anyways, and it had armor piercing, so I had no armor. Oh, it was bad. It was absolutely bad. And so because of that, the Renzo Gunners are now completely gone. Luckily for me, though, the rest of my army did pass its panic test with that, so we're perfectly fine there. At the same time, one of the Sisters of Twilight also opened up with her bow. It fires like a bolt thrower, causing d6 wounds. As you can see, managed to destroy one of my Bronzino's Galloper guns as well. So my Galloper gun crew got destroyed. Luckily for me, my other Galloper gun crew did manage to pass their panic test. So they're perfectly fine. And to add insult to injury, Smell Like Febreze and open fired with Sternbark the Harrower, Strangle Roost directly onto Estasi, my Revolt. Managed to put 2 wounds on there too. Got 7 shots off. So she's been rolling out of the box this game against my stuff. So that part was incredibly dangerous for me. So that part was horrible. But with that being said, though, there is no close combat. So we skip the combat phase and we go directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for my army, the Dogs of War. So we'll be right back after the movement phase. Alright, so that takes directly to the bottom of turn number 1 for the Dogs of War, and this is after the move phase, and as you can see, I've done some dynamic movement. So let's talk about exactly what happened. So first of all, I declare a charge directly with my Mardini's Nightmare Legion directly into the Sisters of Twilight. They're a tar pit unit. They could also cause some damage to a Death Shriek from Scabscraft, which is carried by Ennio Mardini, the captain of this regiment of renown. So hopefully I could cause some damage onto this dragon as well as Sisters of Twilight, maybe whittle them down, bog them down, and destroy them that way. The way I see it is, as long as she's engaged in combat with me, she can't close combat with my troops, so it kind of buys me some more time. At the same time, I also did a quick reform real quick with my Thugs of Tabaro, have them move directly in front of the Troop of Dawn, so that way those guys can't charge directly into my flank. I have no illusions that during the next turn these guys are going to get slaughtered by these Treekin, but I'm just trying to buy myself some more time so that way I can roll down some of Smells Like Febreze forces. At the same time, if you look over here, I also did a swift reform and marched up my Golden Company to face off directly against Sternbark the Harrower. Yes, he's a tree man, but these are Paymaster's bodyguards. They do have stubborn. They also have halberds, so hopefully they can cause some damage that way. My plan is to hopefully recount my losses with some more shooting attacks directly against the infantry forces that she has with my handgunners, as well as my crossbowmen, as well as my revolt, as well as my great cannon, as well as one of my galloper guns as well. So that being said, that pretty much makes up the movement phase for this one. So the movement phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so now we're back with the magic phase of the Dogs of War. Now my magic phase, unfortunately, was pretty lackluster. I only got like 6 power dice for that to use for that turn. But what I was able to do, though, however, was finally get off the spell Enchanted Blades of Iban directly onto Estasi, which is my Revolt. Now the reason why I put that spell onto them is because yes, they get +1 to hit, so I plan on using my Revolt, but they're within point blank range of 2 different targets, both against the Treekin as well as Sternbark the Harrower. Now, Treekin, in my opinion, are much more dangerous because there's so many of them. So what that does, it gives me +1 to hit. So I'll be rolling 3s to fire. But at the same time, though, what the important part here is that my attacks are flammable because of that spell. So what that basically means then is that I'll be causing twice as many wounds when I open fire directly on those guys. The funny part is my friend Smells Like Febreze let that spell through because she didn't realize that I also had flaming attacks on it. And once I told her that I did, she was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you did that to me." So that part was hilarious. Now the reason why she didn't dispel because she was trying to stop me from casting the Final Transmutation, which I was trying to cast directly onto the Court of Seasons over here. So I did try to cast that spell. Unfortunately for me, though, because Smell Like Febreze faded all of her power dice for that, she stopped that spell dead in its track, but I was able to get off the Enchanted Blades of Iban. So vengeance will be mine, because the real magic phase in this army is the shooting phase. So that being said, we'll go directly to the shooting phase, and we'll be right back after this. Alright, so now we're back with the shooting phase. As you can see, I actually did cause some damage. I concentrated some fire with both Perazzo's Lost Legion as well as my Lucchini rifles directly onto this unit of Dryads. Managed to roll down to a pretty good number. I only got 9 of those guys left, so those are definitely not a threat anymore, so I'm not too worried about those guys too much. At the same time, I was able to cause some significant damage over here against the Troop of Dawn. Managed to kill 2 of those guys and put a floating with another one. This was actually a combination of the Deluxe Zabaro as well as the Leostasi. Managed to cause a lot of damage, especially those flaming attacks. Causing that double wounds was absolutely fantastic, so that part was really great. At the same time over here, I also managed to put 2 wounds directly onto the Sisters of Twilight using Ennio Mardini's Scabscraft with his Death Shriek ability. Managed to put 2 wounds on that guy as well, so that part was pretty epic too. So that being said, that pretty much makes the shooting phase on this one. Oh, I'm sorry, I also managed to put 5 wounds directly onto Coeddil the Willow. What ended up happening is I opened fire with my cannon over here, Leagonia. Leagonia opened fire and managed to hit him directly. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get a 6, so that part was kind of sad. At the same time, Bronzino's Galloper guns also managed to put 3 wounds directly onto this unit as well. I was trying to hit Coeddil, but unfortunately, the very last of the ball that went through to hit Coeddil got stopped by a ward save, so it stopped the cannon dead in its tracks. So, with the shooting phase over with, we skip the combat phase because no one's engaged in close combat. We go directly to the top of turn number 2 for my friend Smells Like Febreze. Alright, so we come back to the combat phase on this one. So, let's talk about exactly what ended up happening. So, I believe it was Naetra who actually declared a challenge on this one. So, because of that, I sent in Renzo Aviante, which is basically the champion for my Nightmare Company. That guy got killed pretty easily by Naetra, so that part was kind of rough. However, the combat between the rest of the Nightmare Legion as well as Ceithin-Har as well as the Sisters of Twilight was actually pretty cool. Actually, Inio, my captain of this unit, actually managed to put a wound on one of the sisters, which is kind of nice. Also managed to put another wound directly onto the dragon. In the end, the dragon, however, as well as Arahan, the sister, they managed to kill 11 of my guys. It was all said and done. And unfortunately, one of them was also Mordini himself, so because he also got killed by the dragon basically directed its attacks against him. So that part was devastating. So as you can see here, I'll have to start taking crumble checks at the beginning of my turn because Mordini's the only guy that's keeping this unit around. So that being said, with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for my friend Smells Like Febreze. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2, and this is after the move phase. And as you can see, once again, Smells Like Febreze is actually being extremely aggressive. So let's go ahead and talk about exactly what happened. So first of all, when it comes to the movement phase, as you can see, she decided to declare a charge with both Coeddil, with Sternbuck the Harrower, goes directly into the Golden Company. At the same time, she also charged up forward her Treekin from the Troop of Dawn directly into the Thugs of Barrow. I did stand and shoot as a reaction, managed to plink off the 2 more wounds and managed to kill the very last of those Treekin, so that part was kind of cool as well. If you notice, this unit of Dryads, the Court of Tides, they did declare a charge against the Lucchini rifles. I stand and shot as a direct reaction because of that, and of course I finally killed off the last of those Dryads, so that part is fantastic as well. Meanwhile, over here, Smells Like Febreze then declares a charge directly with the Court of Seasons against my units, the Pearls Lost Legion. Unfortunately for my friend Smells Like Febreze, she did fail her charge, so she only went forward 5 inches, but I stood and shot as a reaction, but as you can see, I did nothing against them because these guys were toughness 8, so my crossbows just kind of bounced off of them, no harm, no foul. Now from there, of course, Durthu marched forward through the ruins past this combat over here, making his way directly towards my flank, followed up by Coeddil the Will Lord as well, and then finally the Troop of Twilight is located right here in the back. And that pretty much makes up my friend Smells Like Febreze move phase for this one. So the move phase over with, we go directly to the magic phase. Alright, so now we're back with Smells Like Febreze's magic phase. As you can see, she had a pretty successful one. Well, not really successful, but she was able to recover 2 wounds for Coeddil the Will Lord, so she was able to do that as well. She did try to call the Withering directly onto my units over here at the back for Bronze's Lost Legion. Luckily for me, though, I was able to dispel that with Maximilian Schreiber. She then also passed Regrowth real quick directly onto the Sisters of Twilight, so because that whole unit is completely healed, so that part was kind of infuriating. At the same time, she did try to cast Dwellers Below, and I used all my Paradise to stop that spell from going off directly onto Bronze's Lost Legion. And because of that, Coeddil the Lord healed up by 2 as well. And that makes up the magic phase or this one. So the magic phase over with, we go directly to the shooting phase. Alright, so now we're back with the shooting phase for my friend Smells Like Febreze. So first of all, Durthu managed to open fire with his Lamentations of Despair directly onto Peraz's Lost Legion. Luckily for me, though, I only lost 1 guy from that, so I got really lucky on that part. I was able to kill him because he managed to get Killing Blow off with that Lamentation of Despair. So really, really lucky on that one. However, the most impactful shooting phase, though, as you can see, took place against my Lucchini rifles. As you can see, 10 of them are dead, and the reason why is because of this unit, the Troop of Twilight. The Troop of Twilight opened fire with their arcane, their Asrai longbows. Combined with Armor Piercing for Asrai longbows, as well as bodkin tips, I really don't get armor saves against that. So my Pervasive doesn't actually do anything against it. So as you can see right there, they managed to kill 10 of my guys. Luckily for me, though, I did pass my panic test. So because of that, they're perfectly fine. So they're still standing their ground at that point. And that pretty much makes up the shooting phase. My friend Smells Like Febreze. So with the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase, and we'll be right back after that. Alright, so now we're back from the combat phase, so let's talk about exactly what happened. So first of all, Over here, I was able to inflict 1 wound directly onto the Sisters of Twilight. Unfortunately, I was actually kill Naetra, actually. That part was actually kind of cool. But because of the conjoined twins rule, you have to kill them both. If you don't, they're perfectly fine. So because there's only 1 wound left onto Arahan is who basically that was. And then, of course, they managed to kill about 10 of my guys over here as well. So this unit's basically going to probably crumble the next turn because I got to take a leadership test for them to see if they actually crumble away with the first part. Meanwhile, combat over here, as you can imagine, the Troop of Dawn had no problem just killing the Thugs to Borrow. They actually destroyed those guys and actually overran 8 inches, going directly over here next to my Lucchini rifles. However, the most painful combat, though, took place over here between Sternbark the Harrower as well as my Golden Company. So first of all, my opponent actually declares a challenge real quick. So I'm thinking I'm smart. I elect Sheik Yadoush. Sheik Yadoush is the weakest member of this team. So I figured, if he dies, so what? No problem. The problem was I forgot that Sheik Yadoush is actually on board the pay cart that's with this unit, and that's where I make my huge mistake. So, smells like Febreze, smelling blood in the wind, she decides to attack with a tree whack, kills Sheik Yadoush, and destroys my pay cart all at the same time, which means now I gotta take disorganized tests here in a second to see if my guys actually flee off the battlefield. So that part was insane. Not to mention that I managed to destroy my pay cart as well as Sheik Yadoush. In the end, I was able to put 1 wound directly onto him, so I had to test on my unmodified leadership. So I rolled for my break test. I rolled a 9. Now, normally you'd be able to re-roll it, but my pay cart was destroyed, so I can't re-roll it. So because I rolled to, I had to flee, so I rolled a 10 to flee, and Sternbark Terror rolls a 10 to pursue. So we're going to talk about exactly what happens in the aftermath of this here in a second. So we'll come right back with the aftermath of the combat phase. All right, so this is what the table looks like after that test. So I have to take a disorganized test, what I have to do. If I lose a pay cart, I have to take a disorganized test, which is a unique army mechanic for the Dogs of War. Because after all, if the money is gone, why would mercenaries stick around if they're not going to get paid? So because I have to take leadership tests for all my guys. Now, if I fail my leadership test, they become disorganized, which means my next turn, they have to... They can't take any actions because they're, frozen solid because they're trying to get their troops reorganized again. But if you roll doubles in the failed leadership test, they automatically flee. So what ended up happening is that I actually rolled double 5s for Lucchini's rifles. So they fled back, I think, like 4 or 5 inches. The biggest one, though, however, was my Perazzo's Lost Legion. So when I rolled for my leadership test, I rolled boxcars. I rolled 12. And then, of course, when I retreated, I rolled an 11. So because that those guys go off the table, and that entire unit is gone as well. And because Lucchini rifles were right over here when Coeddil, when Sternbark actually pursued, he destroyed the Golden Company, of course, because he copied them, and he ran 10 inches forward and ran to Lucchini rifles and destroyed those guys too because they were also fleeing. The only guys who stuck around were my artillery crews. So Le Stasi, Le Agonia, as well as my Bronzino's Galloper guns, they were like, no, forget that. We're not leaving. We're not going anywhere. And of course, it doesn't really impact my undead unit because, they're undead. But that is it. And just like that, poof, my army disappeared and is fleeing for the hills. Oh my goodness. All right, so with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call the game at this point because there's no way I'm going to be able to pull out a victory on this one. So yet another defeat from my army for the Dogs of War. So that being said, we're going to go directly to the after action report because this game is now officially over.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
I thought about staying. They offered me the chance to lead them, to teach them, to be king.
Uh-huh.
But my place is here, so I swallowed the juice, said the words, and here I am.
Did you say the words right this time?
Well, maybe I didn't say every single tiny little syllable, no, but basically I said them, yeah. Basically.
Now it's time for the After Action Report. This is the part of Battle Report we talk about what went well, what went poorly, and what we can learn for the next time that we do battle. This is the After Action Report for the Golden Age, Battle Report number 146, and this one ended up being a defeat for yours truly. In the end, my opponent Smells Like Febreze scored 2,536 victory points, while I only scored 285 victory points. For my losses, I lost Condottieri, Patricio Il Tercio, Maximilian Max Schreiber, Gotrek and Felix, Midas the Mean, Perazzo's Lost Legion, the Verezzo Gunners, the Lucchini Rifles, the Thugs of Tabaro, and the Golden Company. Now, for my friend Smell Like Febreze, she only lost a unit of 25 Dryads that wasn't supposed to be there in the first place. So let's talk about this army's current record. So right now, the current record for this army is at 3 wins as well as 2 losses. And to be fair, that unit of 25 Dryads was not supposed to be in this battle, but in my opinion, it didn't really make any major impact on the battle overall, and the reason why is because Smell Like Febreze played her army beautifully, especially with using that Raz to Routh unit ability for her army, including Drycha. Having those Treekin attacking my flanks as well as the Treeman really exposed the weakness of my army. I think the reason why my army is having such difficulties the last 2 battle reports is because I have too many shooting units in the front, which pretty much leaves my flanks exposed. And because I have a lot of shooting elements, my army is very, very broad. It covers a huge line, which means that I'm spread out too thinly, and I don't have enough to concentrate my forces on this one. So I think this is causing a lot of problems for my army in the long run. Plus, I have a lack of high-strength close combat attacks. That's also a huge problem as well. Plus, I have no magical defense whatsoever. That's another huge issue, and I have too many special characters, I think, because all my special characters are eating up huge chunks of points. Guys like Gottfried and Felix, who cost 350 points just by themselves. So that's an example of like how some of these guys are costing. I think minus the mean is like 160. A lot of these regiments right now eat up a lot of points as well. So needless to say, I think what I need to do is go back to the drawing board with this army and start looking at my lists. Now, I'm not too worried about actually including different units in my army and replacing with the ones I've already painted, just because I have a ton of miniatures in my Studios collection. So I can pick and choose things if I need to in order to play a game, especially if I have to like use things like from our Mordheim battle reports or from like Warcry, for example. I can use those units instead and put them in my army and then hopefully field them and do really well. Plus, it just kind of adds to the overall mystique of the Dogs of War army because they're supposed to be so varied and so different as well. Still, even though I lost this game pretty bad, this was an extremely fun game against an amazing opponent, and just like always, I'm looking forward to playing against Smell Like Febreze in the future. So that's going to do it for this, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest, greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this one, you guys. I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out and stay classy.